You're listening to One Bright Star's Life After Loss, a podcast that's focused on the lifelong journey of life after loss, with your hosts Erica Fisher and Alicia Moore. One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholz and Associates. And now, One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast.
Hello and welcome to One Bright Star's Life After Loss podcast. I'm Erica Fisher, Executive Director with One Bright Star.
And Alicia Moore, President of One Bright Star.
And today we have our friend Paige with us. Hello, Paige.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you here. Paige just joined One Bright Star's Board of Directors, so we are very, very lucky to have her on our team, on our board. Definitely a great addition. So thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
So, Paige, you have many experiences, or at least 3 angels of your own.
Yep.
Can you share with us about your angels?
Yes, I would love to. So 2 years ago, July 13th, we found out that we were expecting twins. And we were about 7 weeks, 5 days along. And we went in to get it confirmed that we were pregnant. And we had seen that the first twin, I call him Wade, was being a miscarriage. According to the doctor, it is a vanishing twin syndrome. So it's being absorbed into either the sibling or into the mother. So that was what was going on with Wade. But we still had Wyatt, and everything was going great during the first part of the pregnancy. 20 weeks is when we went in, got to really see him, and he was moving around. We got to find out it was a boy, and it was a great experience. My husband was in the background doing the fist bumps because he's like, it's a boy again. I wanted a boy. So we were seeing all the scans and everything. The ultrasound tech was kind of taking her time and figuring out what else she needed for scans, but apparently Wyatt was not going to sit still for her. And so she couldn't get some of the measurements. Then they had us transfer to Rochester because she said, well, they need a higher ultrasound machine to be able to see everything. So they transfer us down to Rochester at 22 weeks. We were there with Dr. Trinidad, who is the most amazing woman you could ever meet. I mean, just phenomenal. She was taking over our care, and she noticed that he was measuring small, which she said that's almost normal for twins particularly, but she had diagnosed him with intrauterine growth restriction. But she noticed that there was something else going on in his chest because they weren't able to see all 4 chambers of the heart. So they had us go to cardiology for children. So they looked, they saw everything about his heart. They saw all 4 chambers. So she was just kind of concerned about what was going on, why she couldn't see it at that time. So she had us come back a couple days later to do another scan. And she noticed then there was something else in the chest that was kind of blocking the heart prior. Later to find out at 24 weeks that he had congenital diaphragmatic hernia with his spleen in his chest.
Oh my.
Pushing his heart to the right, so crowding the right lung and also crowding the left lung because of the spleen. At that time, we did an amniocentesis because she said, okay, well, this could be due to a few other genetic disorders, so let's get this done. And they also did genetic testing on myself and my husband. And everything came back on the first panel normal. The second panel that goes even further down in depth, they did find that he had trisomy 18, but because it didn't show up on the first part, they had then diagnosed him with mosaicism, which means that there's not all of the cells have the 3rd chromosome, and they didn't know which part of the body, if not all little parts of the body, were being affected by that. So at that time, they had diagnosed him that he was not viable for life or with life, or incompatible with life is what it is. And they had given me the option to end the pregnancy or continue on. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was an easy decision. I said, I'm continuing. There's no way I'm going to stop because of what if. Yes. What if I would have been able to see him cry? What if I would have been able to hold him? What if he would be able to live a month, live 2 years? Things like that. Because trisomy 18, most babies or kids can live up to 1 year old, and I would rather have that than nothing.
Yes.
So we continued the pregnancy.
Well, and if you think about it, you're pregnant and you love that baby right away.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean,
You would do anything for your kids.
yeah, absolutely.
Whether
Sorry.
they're, you're fine. No, you would do anything for them. So we gave hope for it. And at 29 weeks, I had gotten just really dizzy and everything. So I went and got my blood pressure checked, and apparently it was really, really high. It was like 162 over 102.
Oh, wow.
It was insane. And my normal is nowhere near that for being pregnant. So they had me admitted in Rochester to kind of like watch it, see what's going on, make sure it went down. They did some monitoring, but they weren't going to do extreme monitoring on Wyatt's heartbeat because at that time we had visited with a few other doctors in the specialty clinics that said that pretty much if he were to be born right now, they wouldn't be able to do anything because of his lungs. They weren't sure how much he would be able to have that's
the capacity.
developed.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically they said we're not going to monitor him at this point because if he passes away, there's nothing we can do. Or if we have to give birth, there's nothing we can do. So that weekend, went home. That Monday, they had called and said that I was diagnosed with preeclampsia. So that was a concern that they said, okay, we need you to come in at least once a week to continue to get your blood pressure checked, see how baby's doing, where things are at. So the night before our next appointment, which was Tuesday night, I kind of was laying in bed. My husband was gone on a trip for work, and I was just laying in bed going, something just doesn't feel right. I kind of cuddled in bed with my little dog and just kind of fell asleep hugging the dog and my stomach. The next morning, we had to go to Rochester really, really early in the morning. But we found out that he had passed away that night.
Okay.
When they had done the ultrasound very early in the morning when we were there, about 10 o'clock. So then we had to give birth, which was very traumatic.
Yes.
I can't even, yeah.
I can't imagine either. Right.
But luckily we were able to see him without any blemishes, no bruising or anything. Most people who have had a stillbirth will have some tearing or bruising depending on how long they're in the system or the body for the mothers.
Okay.
So
yes.
we were lucky to be able to see him.
And
to be able to hold him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've talked to some other people, Paige, about the cradle. That was
Dina's.
Yeah,
yes.
carrying cradle.
The carrying cradle. Does Rochester have one of those?
No, they didn't. The one thing I do regret during that whole unfortunate situation is that we didn't keep him in the room very long. We had spurts of him in the room with us. Okay. And then we said, okay, go ahead and take him to where you have him cooled off and make sure that, we want to keep him as perfect as possible for as long as we can. And so we didn't have him in the room very often.
Okay.
We did have a few visitors, like my parents, my in-laws, and my aunt came, got to see him looking beautiful.
Oh, good.
So they don't have the carrying cradle, unfortunately, but that would be wonderful if they did, because then people would feel more compelled to have them in their room.
Yes. How about pictures?
Oh, yes.
Did you? Okay, good.
We did. And I will say, just like Dina, she said no right away, because you think about it, you're going, one, that seems morbid. Two, how do you even look at that after this whole experience? And my husband actually was saying the same thing, like, why do we need pictures? Why? And I just said, it's not going to hurt us to do it. It's not going to hurt anyone to do it. So let's just do it. And if we don't look at it, we don't look at it. That's fine.
Right.
So we had it done, and I'm so glad we did.
That's wonderful.
It brings things closer to home, and we can have him in our home, and I can show him off that way. And his big brother, Jackson, is able to see him because he didn't come to the hospital to see him. He then can picture him as sleeping. And and he even says, is Wyatt still sleeping? Yes, he is.
Oh, that's really sweet. That's precious.
Yeah, so pictures are something that I would highly recommend for any family that's going through a loss.
Okay. Did the hospital encourage you to do that, like the nurses or?
The nurse did, yes.
Good.
She was a phenomenal person too. I mean, she stayed with me as long as possible, even past her shift when I was going through the labor or beginning part of labor, because it was a very difficult time. But she was just with me the whole time, and she said, "Just do it. You will wish you did if you don't."
Yes.
So without her, it would have been. We would have not wanted to.
Right.
But,
Right.
Yeah, she just flat out
Well, I'm
said
glad you
should.
did too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
Sorry,
wonderful.
I'm getting
Yes.
a little emotional.
You know, Paige, you had mentioned the waves of grief.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that. After it had to be so difficult with Wyatt because you were told earlier that he would not live for very long. So I just can't imagine how you
Prepared yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. We were preparing for a birth and a death at the same time. So the wave of grief started early. It was very difficult at that point to even process when you're still feeling them in you. Like, how can this little one not be able to make it? How is this little one not going to be able to see me or my husband or his dad or his brother? So there was many different levels, because everybody thinks about the 5 stages of grief being point 1, point 2, point 3, and it's not. It's all of them at once, or all of them throughout the day, every other minute. It doesn't matter. So the waves of grief, sometimes one will overtake the other emotions. Like, I know I went through many, many, many waves of anger. I was always just, why does this have to happen?
I'd be the same way. Yeah.
Yes.
And like, how, and can there be any changes? Can there be anything that can help others? How do others deal with this? And it just so many different things. And even my faith was tested a lot.
Yes.
And my marriage even was tested a lot.
Yes.
And this was before we had lost Wyatt, before he was born sleeping. And after, it was even more of different waves, because you leave the hospital empty-handed, and you then are sad every time you see a mom that has a baby or is pregnant. You're like,
yes,
why do you get to keep it, but I don't? Even though you're happy for them,
Right.
it's still the mix of emotions.
Absolutely,
And
which is completely normal.
yes.
I
yeah.
would be
It is.
incredibly envious, maybe.
Yep.
I probably would be, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you and that one trigger will then trigger so many other things. So you're going through this up and down roller coaster of many emotions throughout your day, let alone your week. Sometimes you can have a bad week in general, but then it gets heightened even more because you are still sad, angry, mad, happy. I know it sounds weird to say happy, because you would think in the sorrow you can't be happy, but there's moments where you can smile, and that's your happy.
Yes.
That's as happy as you can be. Your true happiness is hard to find after you have a loss, but a smile can be the happy.
And the hope.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely.
Wow.
When you talk about leaving the hospital empty-handed, that has got to be one of the most difficult things, because you see people, they're leaving, they're happy, they're excited, and you are walking out. And I remember when Dina was here and she talked about, did she kind of say the walk of shame she felt
Right.
in a way? And I just felt so bad about that. And you just can't imagine, like you said, it's supposed to be such a wonderful time. And you said that you were preparing for a birth and a death at the same time. And that is just, it takes a special couple to be able to get through something like that.
And it takes a lot of strength.
Yes.
One thing that I'm grateful for is the nurse that we had throughout the whole process. She goes, you know what, this is going to be the hardest part. So she was able to prep me before we walked past the nursery.
Oh, good.
And she goes, this is going to be the hard part. This is the hallway where it's going to be difficult. She
Okay.
goes, if you need to, close your eyes. Just know, we know it's going to be difficult. And I was able to close my eyes and just kind of think, like, okay, this is hard, but I can keep moving forward. And the moment I opened my eyes, I see Dr. Trinidad running down the hall to make sure she can catch me before we left, just to give us a hug. So that that to me was like, okay, I'm not alone.
No.
People
Yes.
are there. And she just, like I said, she was an amazing woman to have for my care. So that at least helped me get through that hard stage. So I was glad that I had the warning.
Right. And that's just, they obviously are very compassionate, caring staff and, doctors and nurses down there, and they know what it's like, and they've been down that road before. And to tell you this is going to be really hard and to close your eyes, I mean, that's exactly what you needed at that point, at that moment. And it's wonderful that, and I understand Mankato too, that
Right.
these OB departments, they've seen a lot of joy, but
Yes.
they've seen that devastation, and then they are able to help you through that too.
Yep, exactly. And I do have to say the Mayo Clinic here and in Rochester are wonderful. They've definitely taken care of myself and my family very well.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
It's good to hear.
It is really good.
So I feel overwhelmed for you because I often talk about your grief journey, and you started your grief journey way, way ahead, and your grief journey hasn't stopped.
No, it has not. One thing I'm grateful for is that I did get the heads up of what was going on with Wyatt, so then we were able to somewhat plan and take steps that we needed during that time. Most people don't even have answers as to why they lost their little babies. We did. We had the answers. We knew what was going on. So I am grateful for that because it's so hard not knowing.
Right. Yes.
And if something just, that you want so badly, but all of a sudden it's taken away from you and there's no logical reason or even a medical answer, that's even harder.
Right.
That's another element of the tragedy there that people have to deal with. And so even though, like you said, you got to prepare and everything, it was still very hard, but you did have a little bit, you had some answers.
Yes.
And so, yes, looking back, tell us about, you said that you connected with Dina.
Yes.
Tell us about that and how she helped you. And you've helped her. So
she is a wonderful friend that I'm so glad that we met, unfortunately, through the tragedy of what we both have lost. But she's just been a wonderful rock. She had lost Cassie 9 months prior to us losing Wyatt. So she understood the first beginning stages of that grief and was more than happy to listen, be there, talk, give me pointers on maybe how she coped with things. But then at the same time, it was like if somebody needed a positive outlook, it was either her for me or myself for her. At least I try. She's definitely somebody I can always lean on and know that's there. And that support just helps you grow even more in your grief, but then also towards some step of feeling, I guess, less sad. I can't say I'm happy all the time, but you can say that it's not as hard because you're not alone.
right.
So
And that's really important is to
Definitely.
to feel like there are others that understand, that can relate.
Yep. And we can both pick up the phone and call each other, and we can talk, we'll message each other, and we know that we're there, whether we're able to answer right away or not. We know that other person is there. So she's so phenomenal.
Both of you are gems.
Yes.
Really.
It's wonderful that you two found each other, like you said, in the tragedy and losing your babies, the friendship that has formed, and the way that you both are able to help other people too.
Definitely.
So, yes.
It's great to have that community.
Yes.
That's
one
so
thing.
important.
Yeah. That's why I do One Bright Star. Mm-hmm. Because of the community and the support and the resources that we can provide for families, parents, siblings who have lost a child or know somebody who have lost a child, or it affects so many people. And sometimes it takes a community.
It does.
It does.
It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to help you grieve that child.
Absolutely.
And to always remember.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
Yes.
All right. Until next time, this is Erica Fisher
And Alicia Moore.
with One Bright Stars Life After Loss podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to One Bright Stars Life After Loss podcast. Life After Loss is a copyrighted production of One Bright Star. One Bright Stars Life After Loss podcast is sponsored by the law firm of Burkholtz and Associates. For more information on the lifelong journey after losing a loved one, please visit our website at onebrightstar.org.